Hello friends, welcome to this first lecture of practice problems on chapter 3. In this series, this is the fifth lecture. Earlier we have already considered 4 lectures discussing in detail the theoretical aspect of admission of a partner. If you have already completed the theory, then this lecture you will find it very easy for the purpose of understanding. If on the other hand you have not gone through the theory part, then I'll surely recommend you that please go through the theory part, different steps to be followed for the purpose of recording the event of admission of a partner. What is the way in which we value goodwill? What are the ratios to be calculated, or what are the ratios to be used? And what are the accounting entries which we are going to prepare or we are going to pass for recording the goodwill? Those are the 4 different lectures we have already covered. I will surely recommend you to go through the same. If you have already completed it, then you are going to enjoy the practice problems more. So I'm repeating again, practice problems are only for those people who have already completed first 4 lectures, which some of you may find it little bit boring because it is pure theory. But remember, accountancy, I always repeat, I always mention that accountancy is a language subject. It's a language of business. Unless you know what is happening in the business, you cannot translate it in the language of business. So please ensure that you are understanding the steps which are involved while admitting a partner in the partnership firm. Once that is clear, then we can go for solving the practical problems. Okay, so in this lecture I'm going to consider only one problem. Totally I have planned some 12-13 problems in this series, so that you will get complete understanding of admission of partner. All the different types of adjustments, all varieties of adjustments I'm going to consider in the same. Okay, so today I'm going to consider only one problem. In the next lecture maybe one problem. Then as your speed will increase, I will increase number of problems per lecture. Now first problem, remember, is a very lengthy problem because Maharashtra government textbook is specifying all the different possible situations in one single problem first. You are required to pass the journal entries, you are also required to prepare the ledger accounts, you are also required to prepare the balance sheet. Such a lengthy problem will never be appearing in the examination. Exams, you will find either only ledger and balance sheet, or only journal, or only certain ledgers, etc. But as a first problem, we are going to consider number 1 journal entries, number 2 ledger accounts, and number 3 balance sheet also. So it is little bit lengthy problem, lengthy solution. I'll surely recommend you to have good stamina and then start with this lecture. So let me now disappear from the screen as usual. So the entire screen is there with you and your problem. Only my voice will be running in the background. Okay, so let me get out of the screen now. Okay, here I'm gone. Let us consider the first problem. This is from page number 135 of your government textbook. Now what does this problem specify? The balance sheet of Sujata and Purnima, who shared profits equally, was as follows. Balance sheet as on 31st of March 2018. Capitals Sujata and Purnima. Creditors bills payable. On the asset side you have land and building, plant and machinery, furniture, sundry debtors, stock and cash. On 1st April 2018, Aparna joins the firm as a third partner for 1/5 share of future profits on the following terms and conditions. Goodwill is valued at rupees 2 lakh. Aparna is to bring her share of goodwill in cash. Aparna is to bring rupees 1 lakh as capital. A provision of 10% is to be created on sundry debtors. Land and building is to be valued at rupees 80,000. Stocks, plant and machinery is to be reduced by 20%. Draft the journal entries to record the above arrangement and give the opening balance sheet of the new firm. So the given balance sheet is the closing balance sheet of the old firm, wherein there are 2 partners, Sujata and Purnima, and they are asking us to prepare the opening balance sheet of the new firm, where there will be 3 partners, Sujata, Purnima and Aparna. So they are asking us to prepare journal entries and they are asking us to prepare balance sheet. Now some of you may specify that, sir, you have mentioned that this problem is going to have journal plus ledger plus balance sheet, but it seems that the problem is only asking journal and balance sheet. The problem is mentioning nothing about ledger. Then should we prepare ledger or not? As a part of answer, as asked by the question, we are not supposed to prepare the ledger. However, if you want to prepare the balance sheet, it is necessary for you to know what will be the closing balance of cash after admission of Aparna as a partner, because she is bringing in goodwill plus she is also bringing in her share of goodwill in cash. So we will have to find out what is the closing balance of cash. We'll have to also find out what is the balance of closing capital of Sujata and Purnima. So it is necessary for us to prepare revaluation account, cash and bank account, and partners capital account. So we are going to prepare those 3 ledger accounts as a part of our working notes. So the main answer is consisting of 2 parts. First one journal entries and second one balance sheet. But as a part of working note which is supporting the main answer, which is helping us to prepare the balance sheet and tally it properly in the first row, we are going to consider the ledger accounts also, but they will be shown as a part of working note, not as a part of main answer. Now generally what I do is, whenever I am interested in solving the problem, I first of all write down the observations. What are the things which I have observed, and based on that, what are the different conclusions I have drawn with that, which steps are required to be performed, how they are required to be performed. So I'll be writing the observations first on the right hand side of the screen. Now please don't be under wrong impression that these observations are required to be written in examination. No, that is not the case. These observations are only for you and me. They are not for the examiner. Don't invest your time in exam to write these observations. This is for the purpose of my teaching and your learning. This is not for the purpose of solving the paper in exam hall. So I'm repeating again, observations are for you to understand how I think. What are the things I look at when I'm solving the problem, and accordingly what are the conclusions I draw to solve the problem. So observations is only the work of you and me. It is not the work of examination. You need not do it in the examination hall. Never to write it in the answer book. That's not required. It is going to unnecessarily take more time in examination to complete the problem also. It is not expected. It is just for our learning experience, not for our mark scoring experience in the exam halls. Okay, so let me start now writing down the observations. What are the observations we are making here? Let me write down here. Just a moment. Yes. What are the observations? The first one, that old partners are sharing old partners PSR. Asa directly one to me. I'll write old partners PSR is equal to 1:1. So how did you get 1:1? Because they have told that the balance sheet of Sujata and Purnima, who shared profits equally, was as follows. So old partners PSR is 1:1. Next, Aparna is a new partner for 1/5 share. Third one, sacrifice done by old partners is not given. Now sacrifice done by old partners is not given. That means, if you remember, I have taught you 4 different situations of calculation of ratio. This situation where only new partners share is given, but nothing is mentioned about which old partner has sacrificed how much. This situation is considered as our first situation in calculation of ratios. If you have forgotten that particular thing, I'll recommend you to go for using this particular presentation which I had taught you about calculation of ratios, etc. I hope you remember this formula. Old ratio minus new ratio is equal to sacrifice ratio. And then we had seen 4 different problems. If you remember, this problem is similar to the problem which we are solving now. Mohan and Ganpat are sharing profits and losses in the ratio of 2:3. They admitted Chandrakant for 1/4 share in future profits. New PSR was so and so. So how to calculate? Old partners Mohan and Ganpat, their old ratio is 2:3. New partner Chandrakant, his share of profit is given as 1/4. Who sacrificed how much for Chandrakant is not given by the problem. Exactly same situation of our problem. In our problem also, old partners PSR is 1:1. New partners PSR is 1/5, and how much sacrifice is done by old partners is not given. In that case, what is to be done by us? Then we consider, first of all, step 1, Chandrakant share 1/4, remaining balance 1 minus new partner share, and then new ratio is equal to remaining balance minus old ratio, and ultimately we calculate sacrifice ratio. If you remember properly, I had taught it in this particular presentation, in this lecture, that in such a situation your old ratio and your sacrifice ratio must be same. We had mentioned this particular thing here. If new partner's share in profit is given, but how much is sacrificed by old partners is not given, then it is assumed that the old partner sacrifice for the new partner in their old ratio. So sacrifice ratio and old ratio in such a situation is always same. So we already know that in our situation or our solution, since the old ratio is 1:1, new partner's ratio is 1/5, new partner share is 1/5, and sacrifice done by which partner, how much, or how much sacrifice is done by which partner is not given. So we are already knowing that our sacrifice ratio is also going to be 1:1. Okay, this is already known to us. We are going to use it afterwards. Okay. Those of you who are a little bit confused about this entire logic, please go for my lecture number 3. Okay, lecture number 3 will help you for the purpose of understanding how the ratios are calculated. I have discussed it in detail there. Please use that lecture. Okay, next part is new partner is bringing capital in cash, because that is mentioned in adjustment number B. Aparna is to bring rupees 1 lakh as capital, and then new partner, or I'll say Aparna directly, that will be easy for us. APARNA, Aparna is bringing her share of goodwill in cash. Where it is given, this point number 5, how I have observed it, it is coming from adjustment number A. Goodwill is valued at rupees 2 lakh, but sir, this is goodwill valuation. Goodwill valuation means it is the value of firm's goodwill. So how can you conclude that Aparna has brought her share of goodwill in cash? Because the second sentence or the second part of the sentence in adjustment number A clearly states that Aparna is bringing her share of goodwill in cash. So there is no tension for us. In that case, which ratio to be used? We should use sacrifice ratio. I hope you remember all these different things. We have considered it in this presentation. This is called as premium method. In premium method, new partner is bringing his share of goodwill in cash, and if it is retained in the firm, then value should be new partner share in firm's goodwill, ratio should be sacrifice ratio. Now we have already discussed how the sacrifice ratio will be calculated by us. 4 steps we are going to use. Journal entries are going to be 2 journal entries. Cash account will be to goodwill account, and goodwill account will be to old partner's capital account, and the position on balance sheet will be on the asset side. Cash account will increase by the amount of goodwill brought in by the new partner, and on the liability side, old partner's capital account will increase in sacrifice ratio by the amount of goodwill brought in by the new partner. All these different things we have discussed earlier in this lecture number 4, that is entries of goodwill. So those of you who have not completed this lecture, please go through this lecture also. Okay, let me now go back to our problem. We can specify Aparna is bringing her share of goodwill in cash. That means we are not going to consider the value of rupees 2 lakh. 2 lakh is the value of firm's goodwill. We are going to find out how much is Aparna's share in that. That is 1/5. So 2 lakh into 1/5, that's what we are going to do. And then that particular amount we are going to distribute between Sujata and Purnima in sacrifice ratio. Okay, so that is the observation we have made. And then they have given you some revaluation, and yes, no other special adjustments are there. So I think this is all sufficient for the purpose of understanding what are the special points of this problem. It appears that the problem is relatively easy, so that will be easy for us to complete the things. Let me highlight this point, and please remember, these observations are not to be written in examination. This is only for you to understand how my mind works, so that it will be easy for you to develop your steps in your mind also. So now what is to be done? I'll go for drawing the journal. That's what they have asked. So the first part of the solution is journal. In the journal of Sujata, Purnima and Aparna, that is the heading you are going to write, and then there will be date column, particulars column, LF column, debit amount and credit amount column. So these are the columns which are already very much known to you. From your 11th standard you have been drawing journal. So date, particulars, LF, debit amount and credit amount, draw up the journal. At least 2 pages draw the journal. Now please don't think that sir is having a journal wherein there are multiple columns. I am having 2 different journal which are completed by me in one single slide. So you may find that I am having date column 2 times. In reality it is not date column 2 times, it is the second page that I have drawn. So consider that this portion or this line of my PPT is the middle line of your notebook, and this is the left hand side of the notebook, this is the right hand side of the notebook. That's what you can think of. So it will be easy for you to prepare this journal. At least 2 pages, draw the journal, and then balance sheet, because that is asked by the problem. The heading will be balance sheet of a partnership firm as on 1/4/2018, liabilities, and then there will be 2 columns of amount, inner column and outer column. Same is the case with asset side, 2 columns of amount, inner column and outer column. Almost 3/4 page will be required for balance sheet. So 2 pages for journal and 3/4 page for balance sheet. Okay, and then we are going to prepare different working notes. First working note is going to be calculation of ratio, second working note is revaluation account, third working note is cash or bank account, and last working note is going to be partners capital account. So there will be 4 working notes. Always remember that working notes are going to have number and they are going to have name. A working note without name and number is like an orphan child. Nobody looks at that child. That should not happen to your working note. So please give name and number to your working note properly. Okay, so if you are interested in drawing that particular thing, if it is requiring more time, please pause the video, draw the things, and then resume the video. Let me now start with the journal entries and other things. Okay, so 2 pages we have drawn for journal, 3/4 page we have kept for balance sheet, and then we are going to do the working notes. First working note is calculation of ratios. There are 4 steps we are going to use. So let me write down now. Step 1, Aparna's share is equal to 1/5. Step 2, remaining balance is equal to 1 minus 1/5 is equal to 4/5. Step 3, new ratio is equal to remaining balance into old ratio. So we are going to consider the first partner is Sujata. For Sujata it will be remaining balance is how much? 4/5 into the Sujata's ratio was 1/2, so we can specify 4/5 into 1/2. That goes to how much? Yes, make the calculation quickly in your mind. It will be 4/10. Okay, next is Sujata is complete. I think I have made some error in spelling. Yeah, I have rectified it now. Then there is Purnima. Her remaining balance for her also is 4/5, and her old ratio was half, so that goes to again 4/10. So we know that if our railway seat is going to be divided in 10 different pieces or 10 different segments, in that case 4 pieces or 4 segments will be given to Sujata for sitting there. Purnima will be getting 4 pieces or 4 segments. So totally 8 parts of the seat are already occupied by Sujata and Purnima. Remaining 2 parts will be given to whom? It will be given to Aparna. So Aparna is equal to 2/10. So 2/10 is exactly same like that of 1/5. So whatever promise we have given to Aparna, that will give you 1/5 share, that is also fulfilled, and we are in a position to specify new ratio, therefore is 4:4:2. Okay, and then we can calculate sacrifice ratio, which will be step number 4. Sacrifice ratio is equal to old ratio minus new ratio. So Sujata, old ratio of Sujata was half and new ratio of Sujata is 4/10. So we are required to multiply the first quotient by 5 so that it will become denominator will be common. So in that case it becomes 5/10 minus 4/10 is equal to 1/10, and Purnima is equal to half minus 4/10, that is equal to again same logic, 5/10 minus 4/10 is equal to 1/10, and this is the conclusion which we had already drawn. Therefore sacrifice ratio is equal to 1:1, because 1/10 and 1/10, that is equal to 1:1. We were already knowing it that the sacrifice ratio and the old ratio should be same, because we have made the observation. First one, old partners ratio was 1:1. Aparna's ratio is 1/5, but which partner is sacrificing how much for Aparna is not given by the problem. In such a situation, the sacrifice by the old partners must be in their old PSR. This is the conclusion we had drawn. Please see the lecture of calculation of ratios, so it will be easy for you to understand. The example which I had given was that of a railway seat of Deccan Queen. It will be easy for you to understand the entire logic. Okay, so the first part of our working is over. We have calculated the ratios properly. Now the second part is, let us consider the balance sheet. What are the different things which are given in balance sheet? Sujata's capital is given and Purnima's capital is given. What is the balance of capital? Look into the balance. 1 lakh is the balance of Sujata and 1,40,000 is the balance of Purnima. That is required to be completed. So let us consider partner's capital account credit side by balance brought down. Remember, in examination you are not going to get a problem wherein they are going to ask journal as well as ledger. Okay, that is not going to happen, so don't worry about the same. So I can specify balance is 1 lakh and 1,40,000. Okay, 1 lakh and 1,40,000 and dash. Okay, now fortunately, luckily, coincidentally, in this problem on the balance sheet liability side, we don't have any general reserve or reserve fund or P&L account. If such undistributed past profits would have been appearing in the balance sheet, we would have transferred them to the old partner's capital account in their old profit sharing ratio. All these points I have discussed in detail in our first lecture, that is accounting steps. But fortunately, this is the first problem. There is no tension of past undistributed profits, so we need not think about transferring it to partner's capital. If on the other hand, on this liability side, we would have had general reserve or P&L account or reserve fund on the liability side, we would have surely transferred it to what? We would have surely transferred it to old partner's capital account in their old profit sharing ratio. If you remember properly, this was a lecture I had conducted in which I have mentioned all these different points. What are the different situations which will happen and what are the entries to be done? Step 1 talks about open necessary ledger accounts, and then different how to transfer assets and liabilities, partners capital account, etc. If general reserve is there, it will be transferred to old partners capital credit side in their old PSR. Okay, all these different points we have already discussed. Please check lecture number 1 for the purpose of understanding these points. Let me now go for our solution. Yes. So Sujata and Purnima's capital is complete, and then there is creditors. I think for creditors there is some adjustment or not. Let us check it out. Aparna bringing capital, provision of 10% on debtors, land and building is valued at 80, stock, plant and machinery to be reduced. So there is no adjustment for creditors, there is no adjustment for bills payable, and our rule says that if there is no adjustment for other liabilities, if there is adjustment, closing balance sheet liability side inner column. If there is no adjustment, closing balance sheet liability side outer column. So that is the purpose of first 4 theory lectures, which some of you might have found it little bit difficult or tiring. But remember, these steps are going to be used by us again and again. These 7 steps, if you remember properly, we are going to use them again and again for every problem which we are going to solve. So unless you are having full command over these 4 steps, you will find the topic to be little bit difficult. So please ensure that first 4 lectures are seen by you properly. Okay. So other liabilities, if there is an adjustment, then it will be out inner column. If there is no adjustment, then there will be outer column. And we have seen just now that there is no adjustment for creditors as well as bills payable. So I can directly write creditors and bills payable in the closing balance sheet. You have prepared journal for 2 pages. We are keeping it blank. We are directly going to the 3/4 page format which you have prepared. That is the format of balance sheet. There I am writing partners capital account, and then I am going to go for underline. I am going to write here Sujata, Sujata, Purnima and Aparna. Their amounts are not yet known to us. The amounts which are already known to us are the opening amounts, or they are the amount on 31st March. We are preparing balance sheet on 1st April. These amounts may change. That's why we are not writing the amounts just now. We are keeping the space pending. Thereafter I am going to write creditors and I am going to write bills payable. these two different items are there in opening balance sheet and there is no adjustment for them, and the rule of admission of partner in step number 2 tells us that if there are any liabilities for which there is no adjustment, then such liabilities should be transferred to the closing balance sheet in the outer column. So creditors outer column will be 34,000 and bills payable outer column will be 26,000. So I'm writing it here, 34,000 come to the outer column, 34,000 and 26,000. Don't forget that when it comes to your text wala columns, then they should be always left aligned, and whenever you are talking about amount columns, they should be always right aligned. If your amounts are written in this fashion, just example, if the amounts are written like this, right aligned amounts, left aligned amounts, that is totally wrong. Or if you are writing your amounts as center aligned like this is also wrong. Amounts should always be right aligned and text should always be left aligned. That is the beautiful statement then it is prepared. Afterwards, when you're going to use different softwares like Excel or any other software, etc., which is basically used for the purpose of financial reporting, it may be your financial accounting software also. Everywhere you will find, let it be Tally, let it be QuickBooks or any other software, everywhere you will find that this basic format or basic rule is maintained for presentation. Text columns always left aligned, amount columns always right aligned. In your examination also, there are marks for presentation. If you are going to maintain this presentation properly, then your presentation marks are not going to be lost by you. So please ensure that particular thing. Repeating for the last time, and in many lectures I'll be repeating it again and again, because I have seen in the classroom that when the students are given the chance to do it on their own, in the hurry to tally the problem, they forget that they are required to maintain certain basic rules of presentation. Text left aligned, amount right aligned. Text left aligned, amount right aligned. Never to forget this rule. Okay, so here we have completed the first part, that is liabilities are posted by us. Let us now consider the second part of the problem. Let me see. Okay, yes, here it is. Asset side. What is going to happen to asset side? Land and building, there is an adjustment. Since there is an adjustment, land and building will go to balance sheet asset side in the inner column. Plant and machinery, again it will go to inner column because adjustment number E talks about stocks and plant and machinery. So land and building inner column, plant and machinery inner column. Furniture, I don't think there is any adjustment, so furniture can go to the outer column. Sundry debtors, there is an adjustment number C, so debtors will go to inner column. Stock, there is an adjustment number E, that will go to inner column. So land and building, plant and machinery, sundry debtors and stock, these items will come to our closing balance sheet but in the inner column, and furniture will come to our closing balance sheet but it will directly go to the outer column. Cash and bank, we have prepared a separate working note for the same, so we'll write the given balance of cash and bank in our cash and bank account. Where to write it? Since it is coming from assets, it is a debit balance, and any debit balance is to be written on the debit side when you are opening the account. Since we are opening the cash account, we are going to write this balance on debit side. So let me now write down. First of all, let me go to my cash or bank account. Yes, here it is. Calculation of ratios, revaluation. Yes, cash or bank account. Yeah. In cash or bank account, I am going to write to balance brought down. This is a working note, so I am using some short forms. To balance brought down. Cash balance is how much? 80,000. So let me go here. 80,000, 80,000. Very good. Next one, land and building inner column 60,000. In the balance sheet, closing balance sheet which we have prepared, on the asset side we are going to write land and building. Land and building, yes, land and building amount is rupees 60,000. So I'm going to write inner column rupees 60,000. 60,000, 60,000. Plant and machinery 70,000. So I'll go to the balance sheet. After land and building, since I want to pass one adjustment, I'm going to leave one line blank. After leaving one line blank, I'm going to write plant and machinery, or you can say plant and machinery. Plant and machinery, the amount given by the problem is 70,000. Please take the amount as 70,000 inner column because there was an adjustment. Next is furniture 24,000. There is no adjustment, so we can write furniture directly in the outer column. So I'm going to furniture, one line I have left blank for the purpose of adjustment of plant and machinery. Furniture I'm going to write here. I forgot the amount. Let me check. What was that? 24,000. Directly in the outer column, 24,000. It seems that while typing I have made some mistake in spelling of furniture. F-U-R-N-I-T-U-R-E. Yes, okay. Thank you Microsoft, you have helped me to complete the spelling mistakes. Okay. Now next point is how much? Sundry debtors, inner column, rupees 26,000. So I'll write sundry. What is that? F-U-R-N-I-T-U-R-E. Yes. Sundry debtors. Sundry debtors, the amount is how much? Look at the amount, inner column, 26,000. 26,000, 26,000. Very good. Please write fatafat. Leave one line. One adjustment means one line to be left blank. Stock, inner column, rupees 40,000. So I'll write here stock. After leaving one line for adjustment of debtor, I'm going to write stock 40,000 in the inner column. Yes. And then there is cash. Cash account we have already transferred to its separate account, so there is no tension. We are just going to write the name of cashier. Afterwards, when we are going to close this working note of cash or bank account, at that time whatever is the closing balance of cash or bank account, that will come in our balance sheet. Okay, so the given balance of cash and bank is the opening balance of cash and bank. That's why it has gone to the opening part of the cash and bank account. And then when we are going to close the balance sheet on 1st of April 2018, immediately on the next day, at that time whatever balance is available, that we are going to write in the outer column. I hope you have understood the basic idea. So what we have done, we have completed the first part, open necessary ledger accounts and transfer the given balance sheet, existing balance sheet, to all the different accounts in a proper manner. In reality, in this problem, ledger accounts were not asked. We are doing it because this is the first problem which is asking us to pass the journal entries, but it is also asking us to prepare the balance sheet, and the balance sheet can be prepared when you are having ledger accounts ready with you properly. So although ledger accounts were not asked, we have prepared them. Okay, so now the first part is over. Let us consider the adjustments. Goodwill is valued at rupees 2 lakh. Aparna is to bring her share of goodwill in cash. Now if Aparna would have taken over the entire business of Sujata and Purnima, if she would have told Sujata and Purnima that I am not interested in coming in the firm as a new partner and to work along with you, but I am interested in taking over your entire business, you please get out. I will pay you the money, but you get out, and I will be the sole proprietor of this business. If Aparna would have said such situation, then Sujata and Purnima would have demanded from her goodwill of rupees 2 lakh, because Aparna would be enjoying the full goodwill of Sujata and Purnima when she is taking over the entire business. But in reality, Aparna has already told that she is not interested in joining the partnership, in taking over the entire business of partnership firm. Instead, she is interested to join the partnership firm as a partner only for 1/5 share. In that case, Sujata and Purnima will specify, if you would have been sole proprietor, if you would have taken our entire business, then we would have asked you to pay us entire goodwill. Since you are taking over only 1/5 share in our future profits, then you need not pay us entire goodwill. You can pay us only 1/5 of the goodwill of partnership firm. So although the value of goodwill, which is not required to be calculated by us, it is already given by the problem, is rupees 2 lakh. The entry will not be for rupees 2 lakh. The entry will be only to the extent of new partner's share. That is 2 lakh into 1/5. 2 lakh into 1/5. What is the amount? Can you tell me? Fatafat calculate karo. Make the calculation on your own. 2 lakh upon 5, that goes to rupees 40,000. So that is the first entry we are going to pass. Cash is coming in, and what is being sold by us? We have not sold our furniture, we have not sold our stock, we have not sold our plant, machinery, land, building, etc. Then why the cash is coming in? Is it coming as a gift? No. It is coming in because we have sold part of the goodwill to Aparna. So entry will be cash account debit to goodwill account. Amount is rupees 40,000. Let us pass the first entry. Yes, here we are. The date will be 1st April 2018. Let me make the small size of this font so it will be easy for the purpose of writing. Just a moment. Okay, date column is small, rest of the columns I'm going to keep normal. Okay, so entry will be cash account debit to goodwill account, being share of goodwill, or you can say 1/5 share of goodwill, brought in by Aparna. Yes, and how much is the amount? The amount is going to be 40,000. So I'm going to write here 40,000, and then I'm going to write 40,000 here also. Okay, so the first entry is over, but this is not a complete part of adjustment of goodwill. There are two entries to be passed, if you remember from the lecture of accounting entries for goodwill, our previous lecture. Accounting for goodwill, yes, entries for goodwill. Here it is, premium method. New partner is bringing his share of goodwill in cash, and then we are going to specify value should be new partner share in the firm's goodwill. Ratio should be sacrifice ratio, we have already calculated. And two entries, cash account debit to goodwill, we have already passed. Second entry is goodwill account debit to old partner's capital account, in which ratio? Sacrifice ratio. Okay, so let us go for passing the second entry. What did we sell? We sold goodwill, but in the existing balance sheet there is no goodwill. So whatever is not there, that is being sold by us, or whatever was there but it could not be seen, it could not be touched. It was there, it was helping us to earn extra profit. That's why we are having reputation. That is called as reputation, and that is called as goodwill. So it was there, which is not recorded by us in the balance sheet. So who brought that goodwill in the firm? Obviously it was the hard work of Sujata and Purnima. That goodwill, although we did not purchase like land and building, although we did not purchase like plant and machinery, furniture, debtors, stock, etc., but we generated it, and the value of it was rupees 2 lakh. It was generated by the hard work of Sujata and Purnima. So whatever amount is coming on account of this goodwill should be transferred to Sujata and Purnima in their sacrifice ratio. So the entry will be goodwill account debit to Sujata's capital to Purnima's capital. Goodwill account debit to Sujata's capital to Purnima's capital account. And amount of goodwill is how much? 40,000, which will be transferred to Sujata and Purnima in their sacrifice ratio, which we have calculated in our working note number 1. And our working note number 1 says that sacrifice ratio is how much? 1:1. So we are going to consider 40,000 to be divided as 20,000 to Sujata and 20,000 to Purnima. Please remember, if you have not attended the lecture, you have not completed the lecture of accounting steps, first lecture, then there is a chance that you may find my speed to be little bit higher. To avoid that particular thing, please go through the first lecture. Okay, so goodwill account debit to Sujata's capital account to Purnima's capital account, being goodwill brought in by Aparna, transferred to old partners in sacrifice ratio. Okay, so narration is also ready, there is no tension for us. I hope everybody has understood both the entries. Let me just remove some extra rows here. Okay, so now I'll go for the next one. These two entries we have passed, cash account debit to goodwill account and goodwill account debit to Sujata's capital account to Purnima's capital account. Next adjustment is adjustment number B. First adjustment is over. Second adjustment is adjustment number B. It is telling us Aparna is to bring rupees 1 lakh as capital. Aparna is to bring rupees 1 lakh as capital. What is coming in? Cash is coming in. Who is bringing in? Aparna is bringing in. Why she is bringing in? She is bringing it as a part of her capital. So cash account debit to Aparna's capital account. Entry will be cash is coming in, debit what comes in, cash account debit. Aparna is the giver, credit a giver to Aparna's capital account. Entry will be cash account debit to Aparna's capital account. Same date 1/4/18. In fact, all the transactions are going to have the same date. If you forget to write the dates, you are going to lose a mark. So please don't do that particular thing. Please write the dates properly. Cash account debit to Aparna's capital account. Yes, and amount is how much? 1 lakh. Very good. I appear on the screen in between just to ensure that you are not sleeping. I hope you are there with me. Okay, chalo. Cash account debit to Aparna's capital account, APARNAS. Yes. Okay. Being capital brought in by Aparna. Okay. So that is also over. Let us consider. Generally what I do after passing an entry, I leave one line, one blank line, so it looks nice, neat and clean in the examination. So your answer book should look very normal, proper, clear. Okay, so generally leave one line after every one entry is passed by you. This is how it will look. Okay, chalo. Now the next adjustment. Adjustment number A is over, B is over. Let us consider C adjustment. Provision of 10% to be created on sundry debtors. Provision to be created on debtors, it means we are thinking that although debtors are of rupees 26,000, there is a chance that in future we may not be in a position to recover entire 26,000. There is a chance that we may be losing some debtors may turn out to be bad, or we may have to give them some extra discount, etc. So it is better for us to provide for the same, that a loss may be happening in future, but this loss is on account of the debtors which are already there in the balance sheet on 31st March 2018. That means these debtors are created out of the sales up to the date of 31st March 2018. That means these debtors are out of the sales when only Sujata and Purnima were partners. That means these debtors are not having any relationship to Aparna. So if any of these debtors turn out to be bad and a partnership firm suffers a loss, then Aparna can very well specify that I am not going to suffer any, or I am not going to share any of the bad debts loss out of the debtors which were created by way of credit sales before my admission. So whatever is the loss on account of bad debt which may happen in future, it will have to be recorded now and it will have to be transferred to the existing partners or the old partners, that is Sujata and Purnima. So we are going to consider the adjustment of RDD. They have not mentioned that it is bad debt, they have just specified create a provision. So we are going to consider RDD at the rate of 10% on debtors, 26,000, 10%, last zero cancel, it goes to 2,600 rupees. So let me consider the entry, 2,600 rupees entry. This is a profit or this is a loss? This is a potential loss. So we are going to consider 1,418. Loss is to be always considered as debit all expenses and losses. So it should be transferred to profit and loss account. However, this is not a loss which is arising on account of day-to-day transactions of the business, but this is a loss which is recorded by us especially at the time of admission of a new partner. So we are not going to use our usual account called as P&L account to record the same. We are going to prepare a separate account that is called as P&L adjustment account. This P&L adjustment account is also having a second name that is called as revaluation account. So if you want, you may use the word revaluation account, or if you want, you can use the word P&L adjustment account. It is one and the same. Okay, so revaluation account debit to RDD account. Amount is how much? 2,600. 2,600 being RDD recorded. Simple. Okay. Next point. Land and building is to be valued at rupees 80,000. Look at the adjustment again. I am looking at adjustment number D. Please check here. Adjustment number D. Land and building is to be valued at rupees 80,000. Existing value of land and building is 60,000. So Sujata and Purnima are claiming that this 60,000 represents the money which we might have paid in the past for the purpose of purchasing this land and building. And as on today, this land and building, the value has gone up, the value has appreciated, value has already gone up by rupees 20,000, and today's market value of the same land and building is rupees 80,000. That means there is a profit of rupees 20,000 which we have not realized because we have not sold a land and building. But if it so happens that after admission of Aparna, immediately on the next day we decide to dissolve the partnership firm on account of any difficulty, any contingency, then we will be selling land and building at rupees 80,000. That means we'll be making a profit of rupees 20,000, and the Partnership Act specifies that any profit or loss made by the firm should be transferred to the partners who are appearing as partners on that particular date. So if on 2nd of April we sell the land and building and we get rupees 80,000, that means we get a profit of rupees 20,000, then not only Sujata and Purnima but Aparna will also be entitled to claim the share of that profit because she is a partner on the day on which sale took place. To avoid this difficulty, we are going to specify, Aparna, this appreciation from 60,000 to 80,000 has happened before you are admitted in the partnership firm. Since it has happened before your admission to the partnership firm, it is better that we are going to record this particular thing at this profit in our own partner's capital account, that is Sujata's capital account and Purnima's capital account. Instead of 60, we are going to make it 80. On the balance sheet asset side, an item of 60 is all of a sudden automatically going up and reaching to the level of 80,000. No cash is going out, still it is going up, so it's a profit for us, and profit belongs to whom? Profit belongs to those partners who were there on that particular date. So as on 31st March, Aparna was not there. That means it will be transferred to only Sujata and Purnima in their old ratio. This is an adjustment of revaluation. We will use the revaluation account, which is also called as P&L adjustment account, for the purpose of recording this transaction. Now be careful, transaction is not of rupees 80,000. The current value is 60,000, and the problem has told us that please go for recording land and building to be valued at rupees 80,000. It means the problem is telling you what should be the new value. Instead of 60, what should be the new value in the closing balance sheet? It should be 80. Instead of 60, it should become 80. That means the transaction is not of 60, transaction is not of 80, but the transaction is exactly equal to the difference between 60 and 80. I repeat, transaction is not of 60 because 60 is already there. Transaction is not of 80 because that is the balance which we want afterwards. That means from the railway station of 60,000, we want to go to the next railway station of 80,000. So the distance which we are traveling, the travel transaction, the distance is 20,000. So the journal entry is never of the balance, but journal entry is always of the transaction. That means entry will be of rupees 20,000. So I'm repeating again, many students understand all these things properly, but unfortunately in examination, in a hurry to complete the problem, they just pass the entry for rupees 80,000. Please remember, entry should not be of rupees 80,000, but entry should be of such amount that after passing that entry, land and building should go up from rupees 60,000 and it should reach rupees 80,000. So from 60,000, if it should go up to rupees 80,000, that means how much distance we should travel? We should travel the distance of 20,000. Entry should be of rupees 20,000. Then 60 will become 80. So I'm repeating for the last time. Entry is not of 60,000, not of 80,000, but entry is of rupees 20,000. Okay. So let me go for passing the entry now. This is a profit. So date is 1/4/18. Just a minute. Let me reduce the size of this font on the date column, so it will be easy for the purpose of writing 1/4/18. What is happening? We are writing our land and building. Land and building account debit to revaluation account. Land and building is appreciated, so asset appreciated, it means it's a asset account should be debited, and it's a profit. Profit should be transferred to P&L account, but this is a profit at the time of special event, so it should be transferred to a special account. The name of special account is either revaluation account or you can also call it as P&L adjustment account. Since the problem is silent, I am using the small name, chota wala name, that is revaluation account. Land and building account debit to revaluation account being land and building appreciated. Amount of the entry will be rupees how much? Don't say 60,000, don't say 80,000. Remember the amount is rupees 20,000. Okay, so I'm going to consider 20,000. Now, as I had already mentioned it, please remember that amount column should be always right aligned and text column should be always left aligned. Okay, so land and building adjustment is over. Next part is adjustment number E. Stock and plant and machinery is to be reduced. Two assets are going to go down. Assets are getting reduced, that means it's a loss. Loss should be transferred to P&L account debit side, but it is a loss happening at the time of special event called as admission of a partner. So this loss will not be transferred to P&L account, but it will be transferred to a special account called as revaluation account or P&L adjustment account. So there will be two losses to be debited to revaluation account. If you want, you can pass two separate entries, one entry for stock, another entry for plant and machinery, or you can pass a combined entry for stock and plant and machinery taken together. Both of them are to be reduced by how much? 20%. Stock amount is 40,000. 20% of 40,000, calculate it quickly. That goes to rupees 8,000. And plant and machinery, the value of plant and machinery is 70,000. 20% of plant and machinery is 20% of 70,000 is rupees 14,000. So we are going to pass the entry for 14,000. Please remember, entry should not be of the old balances. Entry should not be of the new balances, but entry should be of the transaction, and the transaction is reduction by 20%. So transaction should be the value of transaction, amount of transaction should be 20% of the value of different assets. I hope everybody has understood the same. So please remember, the entry for stock will not be 40,000, but it will be 20% of 40,000. Entry for machinery will not be of rupees 70,000, but it will be 20% of 70,000. So let me go for passing the entries now. Entry will be loss is there, debit all expenses and losses. So entry is 1/4/2018. Revaluation account debit to stock account to plant and machinery account. The amount of revaluation will record afterwards. Let us consider first of all the amount of stock. The original amount of stock was rupees 40,000, of which we are going to calculate 20%. That goes to 8,000. So I'm going to write here 8,000. And then the original amount of plant and machinery was rupees 70,000. 20% of the same is rupees 14,000. So I'm going to write here 14,000. So two credits, 8 and 14, that means debit is of rupees 22,000. Okay, take the total and that will be debited, being stock and plant and machinery depreciated by 20%. Simple. Okay, so we have completed this adjustment also. Let us consider any more adjustments are pending. Adjustment number A, goodwill is over. B, capital is over. C, RDD is over. D, land and building is over. And E, stock as well as plant and machinery is over. All transactions are over. Now we are going to complete the rest of the things. As such, there is no entry which is pending, but if we have seen the entries properly, you will come to know that we have considered an account called as revaluation account, in which we have passed certain entries on debit and certain entries on credit. That revaluation account is required to be closed. Our steps of accounting tells us that revaluation account balance should be transferred to, yes, think about it, it will be transferred to old partners capital account in their old profit sharing ratio. I had discussed it just now. If the land and building gets sold immediately, if the debtors turn out to be bad, in that case the old partners should be entitled to either enjoy profit or to suffer loss. New partner does not have any right to demand any share in the past profits of the firm as well as past losses of the firm. So it will have to be transferred to old partners capital, that is Sujata and Purnima in their old ratio, which is 1:1. Okay, so let us find out now what is the amount of revaluation, whether there is a profit or loss. So how do we go for it? We have already completed journal. One entry of journal is pending. For that purpose we have left the space here. Let us now consider all these different adjustments, and we have already prepared ledger accounts. We will go on making the posting for the same. Cash account debit to goodwill account. So I'll consider debit side of cash account to goodwill account. Amount is how much? 40,000. We have not prepared goodwill account. So if you will prepare goodwill account as working note number 5, in that case you will have to write on the credit side by cash or bank account. We have not prepared that account, so I am not in a position to show the same. Okay, first entry I have completed both the effects. Sir, you have given only one effect. Yes, what you are saying is true. It appears that I have given only one effect because we have not prepared goodwill account. If you will prepare goodwill account, in that case the second effect of this debit entry can be shown on the credit side of goodwill account under the heading by cash or bank. Okay, so at this moment just assume that on a piece of paper in your mind we have written goodwill account in which we have given the second effect. It is not shown by us here. Okay, so first entry is posted. Second entry is goodwill account debit. So that imaginary goodwill account in our mind is now getting debited. Earlier it was credited, now it is getting debited. So goodwill account will get cancelled. Goodwill account debit to what? To Sujata's capital and to Purnima's capital. So let us go to partners capital account credit side. We'll write there by goodwill account. The amount of goodwill account will be how much? We have already calculated the same. It was rupees equal 1:1. Total goodwill is how much? 40,000. So 1:1 to be divided to Sujata and Purnima will be 20,000 and 20,000. Yes. And Aparna will get nothing of the same. Okay. So first entry we have posted, second entry we have posted. Third entry is cash account debit to Aparna's capital account. Cash के डेबिट में, अपर्णा के क्रेडिट में. Let us go to cash account debit side to Aparna's capital account. And amount brought in by her was rupees 1 lakh. So I'm going to consider 1 lakh. And here I'll write by cash account dash dash, and it is 1 lakh here. Oh, I am standing in the way. Okay, I have written 1 lakh here. Okay, Aparna's capital account credit side 1 lakh rupees are written. So the ledger posting is done here. Next one, revaluation account debit to RDD account. Let us go to revaluation account debit side to RDD 2600. Revaluation account debit side to RDD 2600. And let us go to closing balance sheet. Just below debtors we are going to write less RDD 2600. 26,000 minus 2,000 is equal to 24,000. 24,000 minus 600 is equal to 23,400. Okay, so we have taken the amount in the outer column, 26,000 minus 2,600. So here you can see that I have shown both the effects of the adjustment of RDD. One effect is revaluation account debit side to RDD, and second effect is balance sheet asset side just below debtors less RDD 2,600. So outer column amount is 23,400. Only when it comes to goodwill, since we have not prepared goodwill account, we could not show the second effect. But for every other entry I am showing all the second effects properly. Take the case of cash brought in by Aparna, that there also we have shown both the effect. Okay, cash account debit and what is that? Partners capital account credit. That's what we have shown. Okay, so let me just make us this one APARNA, and I'll just reduce the Aparna capital account. Okay, and now we have completed RDD also. Next adjustment, we have already recorded the same entry, land and building account debit to revaluation account 20,000. Land and building should be debited and revaluation should be credited. So I'm going to the revaluation account, I'm going to the credit side, I'm writing there by land and building. Now since this is a working note, so we can write short forms also, not a problem. 20,000 rupees we are going to consider here. Okay, second effect of the same will go to balance sheet. The amount of land and building is rupees 20,000, which we want to convert it to 80,000 because that was the condition of the problem. So I'm going to write here 80,000, and I'll write it here in the inner column, add appreciation. Okay, so this is an appreciation of land and building, and about debtors there was RDD. So whatever was expected by the problem from us, that land and building should be valued at rupees 80,000. So land and building has come to rupees 80,000 by passing the entry of rupees 20,000 and posting the same. Okay, next one. Revaluation account debit to stock account to plant and machinery account. Debit the revaluation account. So let us go to debit side of revaluation account and write there to stock to plant and machinery. Revaluation account debit side to stock to plant and machinery. The amount of plant and machinery was rupees 14,000 and the amount of stock was rupees 8,000. एक बार check करते हैं. I think the amount was, yes, 8 and 14, correct. So we have completed the things properly. Okay, second effect is required to be given. Stock is depreciated. We have mentioned it here, depreciated. That means the amount of stock to be reduced by us, amount of plant and machinery to be reduced by us. Let us go to balance sheet asset side. There I'm going to write less depreciation. Amount is 14,000. 70 minus 10 is equal to 60. 60 minus 4 is equal to 56. So we are going to consider outer column 56,000. Okay, and from stock we are going to write less from that depreciation. It is rupees 8,000. So 40 minus 8 is equal to 32,000. Come to the outer column 32,000. So we have given both the effects of the value of stock, or sorry, of the value of adjustments of revaluation. All entries are over. Yes. Every posting is complete. Yes. So now we can close the revaluation account, find out profit or loss, and we can transfer it to the old partners capital account in their old profit sharing ratio. Be careful, old partners capital account in old profit sharing ratio. So 14 plus 8 plus 2. So 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. 10 plus 14 is equal to 24. So it is 24,600, which is the total of debit side, which is higher as compared to the total of credit side. So I'm going to write here 24,600. 24,600 is the amount of the total of debit side, which I'm going to write on both the sides, and then I'm going to find out what is the balancing figure, which is rupees 4,600. Since it's a balancing figure, I'm going to put an encircle around it. I'm going to encircle it to tell the examiner that this amount is not given by the problem, but we have calculated this amount, and just in front of 4,600 I'll write the name of Purnima, and above that the name of Sujata, and above that is by partners capital. Okay, in which ratio we are going to transfer the amount to Sujata and Purnima? In their old ratio. What was their old ratio? 1:1. So 4,600 to be transferred to the old partners in their old ratio. Accordingly we are doing the same. So Sujata and Purnima, 4,600 equally distributed, 2,300 and 2,300. Okay, and second effect will be obviously partners capital account debit side to revaluation account. For Sujata it will be 2,300, and for Purnima it will be 2,300. For Aparna it will be dash. Okay, because Aparna is a new partner, she does not have any right to share the profits or losses on account of revaluation. So 2,300 to Sujata, 2,300 to Purnima, and Aparna is dash. But the problem has not asked us to prepare only ledger account. In reality, problem had asked us to prepare journal entries. This last journal entry will have to pass. What is the entry? Sujata's capital account debit 2,300, Purnima's capital account debit 2,300, to revaluation account 4,600. Okay, so the entry will be on the same date 1/4/18. Sujata's capital account debit Purnima's capital account debit to revaluation account. Amount is how much? 2,300, 2,300, and then we are going to consider 4,600 being revaluation loss transferred to old partners in old PSR. Okay, so that's all entries are over. Let me remove these additional rows. Okay, so we have completed the journal entries completely. We have completed the ledger accounts of revaluation. Now two ledger accounts are still pending. Cash and bank account is yet to be closed, as well as partners capital account is still to be closed. Let us take the total of cash or bank account. 80 plus 40 is equal to 1 lakh 20. 1 lakh 20 plus 1 lakh is equal to 2 lakh 20. So it will be 2 lakh 20,000. And then we are going to call it as by balance carried forward. The amount is obviously 2,20,000. Please apply your mind for making the calculations. Try to develop the quick calculation habits. That is going to help you. And this is simple, basic arithmetic. So whether you are SP student or you are math student, it doesn't make difference. Don't run away from the responsibility of totaling by saying that, sir, I am a SP student, so I can't do the calculation quickly. This has nothing to do with maths. This is pure arithmetic, simple arithmetic. This is not at all related to trigonometry or integral or differential calculus. So anybody can do this particular thing. Okay. Next is Sujata's capital and Purnima's capital and Aparna's capital. Let us take the total. 1,20,000, 1,60,000. Oh, let me disappear from the screen. And then Aparna is 1 lakh, and then I'm going to underline the same, copy it here, and I'll paste it here. Okay, then I'll write here to balance carried forward. What is the balance? From 1 lakh 20, if you are going to deduct 2,000, it will be 1 lakh 18,000. From 1 lakh 18, if you are going to deduct 300, it will be 1 lakh 17,700. Okay, 1 lakh 20 minus 2 matlab 1 lakh 18. 1 lakh 18 minus 300 is equal to 1 lakh 17,700. 1 lakh 60 minus 2 is equal to 1 lakh 58. So it will be 1 lakh 57,700. And for Aparna, there is only credit entry, there is no debit entry. So Aparna's capital will be as it is, 1 lakh rupees. So the total of Aparna's capital and the balance of Aparna's capital is exactly same. Whenever I calculate anything which is a balancing figure, I always encircle the same. So I try to tell the examiner that this is not an amount which is given in the problem, and this is not an amount which I have copied from anybody else, but this is the amount which I have calculated as a balancing figure. So this is how it will be looking. Okay. So now, yeah. Okay, these are the points which are there. This 4,600 is already transferred to partners capital, so it is not going to come in our closing balance sheet. But this 2,20,000 rupees closing balance, the name is by balance carried forward, it will have to come to closing balance sheet. Similarly, here the name is balance carried forward, that means it will have to come to closing balance sheet. So partners capital account will come to closing balance sheet, and cash and bank account will come to closing balance sheet. Be careful, partners capital account will go to balance sheet liability side, and cash and bank account will go to balance sheet asset side. Why we are going to do this particular thing, I'll be discussing it in the next lecture. This is a lengthy problem now, so I'll not be discussing about which side it goes. Just keep it in mind that cash and bank account asset, so it will go to asset side. Partners capital account is liability, so liability side. In the flow of our next lectures practice problems, I'll be discussing even the reasons for this kind of posting. Okay, so let me go for balance sheet. Where is the balance sheet? Okay, in front of cash I'm going to write what is the amount of cash. Cash 2,20,000. 2,20,000 directly outer column, 2,20,000. And Sujata, Purnima and Aparna, the balance we had calculated, if you remember properly, 1,17,700, 1,57,700 and 1 lakh. Inner column 1,17,700, 1,57,700 and 1 lakh. We can take the total to the outer column now. Now for the purpose of quick calculation, I am taking calculator, but obviously remember you are not going to use calculator in examination. Please make calculation on your own. So it will be 1,17,700. Don't copy from the screen. Please make your own calculation. that goes to 3,75,400. So I'm going to consider here 3,75,400, and let us check whether our balance sheet is tallying or not. 3,75,400 plus 34,000. Please make your own calculation. Do not copy from the screen. 4,35,400. In fact, you can pause the video, take your calculations, and afterwards resume the video to check whether your balance sheet total and my balance sheet total are same or not. 4,35,400. Okay, let us consider asset side. The total of asset side is 80,000 plus 56,000 plus 24,000 plus 23,400 plus 32,000 and plus 2,20,000. That goes to 4,35,400. So our balance sheet is tallying. That's a good thing. First problem of your life of the topic of admission of partner, nicely tallied by you without having any difficulty, no mistakes. That's a very good thing. Okay, so what the problem had asked? The problem had asked us to prepare APP. Okay, I'll remove the animation effect. It is taking unnecessary extra time. Just a minute. Okay, I'll specify animation effect is to be removed. Yeah, and here also I'll remove the animation effects. It will be easy for me to quickly complete the things. Yeah, so problem had asked us to prepare what? Problem had asked us to prepare journal, which we have completed, and problem has also asked us to prepare balance sheet, which is tallied by us. This additional thing which we have done are extra working notes, which have helped us to find out the closing balance of cash, to find out the entry for revaluation, profit or loss, and also to find out the closing balance of partners capital. So what I want you to do now is to go through the entire problem what we have done. Remember, this entire problem is solved by me by assuming that you have already completed first lecture, that is accounting steps which are required to be followed. What are the accounting steps? I hope you remember this particular thing. Accounting steps. Yes, here it is. These are the accounting steps which we have studied. The accounting steps were like this: open necessary ledger account, transfer of assets and liabilities, capital brought in by new partner, goodwill account adjustments, revaluation of assets and liabilities, and then closing of revaluation account, finding out the profit and loss, transfer it to partners capital. In case of profit, what is to be done? In case of loss, what is to be done? Then closing all the accounts and closing the balance sheet. These are the steps which we have already studied in detail in our first lecture. So please ensure that you are going through the lecture and then you are coming back to our practice problem thing. If you are directly coming to practice problems, there is a chance that you may develop unnecessary phobia of this topic. This is a very easy topic, very monotonous topic, routine topic, 7 steps to be repeated again and again. There is nothing new in that. You are just required to make the calculations properly. So this is what is the question, the observations and the solution. Okay, so this is what is something to be done by us. Thank you very much. Lengthy problem. I'm very happy that you are having a very good stamina of solving the problem with me. Keep it up. Maintain this stamina. Next problem is also a somewhat lengthy problem because we are going to consider again journal, ledger and balance sheet. But third problem onwards we are going to consider the problems of small size which are going to be asked in examination. So first two problems I am considering all the different situations, how the journal entries are passed, how the ledger entries are posted, and then how the balance sheet is tallied. Thereafter we are going to consider the exam type of problems wherein only ledger accounts are asked, or only journal entries are asked, or only balance sheet is asked, etc. Okay, so don't worry, this lengthy problem will not be asked in examination. Your 3 hours exam is going to be completed by you properly. Topic of admission will require hardly 20 to 25 minutes in exam hall, provided you are going through all the lectures systematically. So meet me in the next lecture. I'll be solving second problem, lengthy problem. Once that is done, then we can go ahead with our speed. Thank you very much. All the best. Okay, bye bye.